Welcome back to Music Theory 1. This is Chapter 11, Major Keys. So, last video we looked at tones and semitones, and I told you that they were going to be coming back in the next video, and they absolutely are. Somewhat unusually, we're going to start with an exercise. So the first exercise asks us to analyse the scale of C major and show where the semitones are. The first one has been done for us. Now I will return to the screen the piano keyboard from the last video because I think it will come in handy. Here it is. Hopefully that's nice and big enough to be clear. So we can see already that they have noted that, as quite correctly, that there is a semitone between E and F. And as you can see, there are no white notes. No black notes between E and F. Similarly, there are no black notes between B and C. So here is another semitone. So overall we have these notes of the C major scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti. Back to do. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And what gives a major scale its unique sound is the arrangement of tones and semitones between the notes. Between all of the notes except the ones that we've bracketed earlier are tones, whole tones. And between the bracketed notes we have semitones. This gives a unique pattern. If I number the notes of a major scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and we have these little hats above them. By convention, we're talking about the degrees of the scale. There is a semitone between 3 and 4 and 7 and 8. So a major scale has tones between every degree of the scale except 3 to 4 and 7 to 8, which have semitones. Okay. Okay, so this gives the major scale its unique major sound. And for all other major scales, we have to maintain the same gaps. Now, when we start on a different note, if we just play the notes of C major or sing them, we would move the gaps around such that the semitones ended up in the wrong place. If we just played a white note scale starting on, let's say, a G, suddenly the semitone would no longer be between 3 and 4 and 7 and 8. It would be between still be between 3 and 4, because B and C, what used to be 7 and 8, would become 3 and 4, but there would be a semitone between E and F, which would be notes 6 and 7 rather than 7 and 8. So if we want to continue, when we look at the next exercise with some other scales, we need to work out where to put the semitones and use accidentals to do so. Let's try this together. So here we have another exercise, this time where we have to put in accidentals in order to make these scales major. Notice some of them go up and some of them go down. I'll label on the notes as they currently are. In the example we have an F sharp, and I guess I should make room for that piano keyboard. There we go, can just about fit. There we go. Putting accidentals in front of any notes, need to make them the scale. Right, so once we can see, if I number the notes as well above, perhaps, in the example they have handily created semitones between 3 and 4 and 7 and 8. So G to A is a tone, there's a black note in between there. A to B is a tone. B to C is a semitone, that's 3 to 4, that's where we want it to be. So maybe above we can write, we're looking for semitones between 3 and 4 and 7 and 8. Call them semitones, S. This is where they need to be, so we'll remember that. Now, in the F major descending scale, of course it's going the other way, so this is 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we know that the semitones need to be between 3 and 4 and 7 and 8. So what we should do is we should go through, check to see if they are semitones already, and make adjustments if needed. So we've got an F. Bass clef, remember? That's the F. F, yes, good. E, right, F and E, that's already a semitone. Yeah, there's no black note in between F and E, so we're good. E to D is a tone, that's good. Make sure you check for the tones as well as the semitones, because you don't want a semitone where it shouldn't be, as well as where it needing it to put it where it should. D to C, that's a tone, that's where exactly as it should be. C to B. Now C to B is a semitone, and we shouldn't have a semitone between 5 and 4. So what we need to do is we need to lower that B away from the C. We don't want to raise up the C because then that would make it closer to the D, and we put a semitone between 6 and 5. We don't want one there, so we should lower that B to make it a B flat. Now that we've got a tone between 5 and 4, we're good. And notice that has also meant that B flat to A is a semitone, which is where we want it to be, between notes number 3 and notes number 4. A to G is a tone, that's good, that's what it should be in a major scale, between 3 and 2, and G to F, 2 to 1, we should have a tone, which is exactly what we do have, so this is fine. This tells us that F major has a B flat. One flat, B flat. And this is something you need to memorize. You can easily make a flashcard out of that. Now we've got D major. They've asked us to do D major going up. Okay, so that means we're starting with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. D major, starting on a D. So D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. Now let's look to see how we're doing with our tones and semitones. So D to E is a tone, and it should be. 1 to 2 should be a tone, so we're good there. E to F, that is a semitone. So we need that F to be further away from the E to make it a whole tone between 2 and 3. So we sharpen that F to be F sharp. And that F sharp is not being very well drawn, so let's draw it a little bit better. There we go. Now we have a tone and then another tone between 1, 2, and then 2 and 3. Good. Right. 3 to 4, F sharp, as we've now made it, which I should note down here. F sharp to G is indeed a semitone, so we can draw a little bracket on there to show it clearly. As they've asked us to in the exercise, we wouldn't need to do that in music, of course, printed music. They just want us to show it for the purposes of the exercise. 3 to 4 is now a semitone, as it should be. G to A, a whole tone. Yes, it is. There's a G sharp or an A flat between them, so we're good. A to B, another whole tone that we want between 5 and 6. Yep, that's fine. There's a B flat or an A sharp between them, so we're good. B to C, between 6 and 7. Oh dear, that is a semitone. We don't want it to be a semitone, we need it to be a whole tone. So let's sharpen up that C to make it go away from the B. Notice I'm always working forwards in the scale. So C sharp, yes, now we've got a whole tone. Great, because the C in the middle of B and C sharp. Now C sharp to D is a semitone, and that's right, we've raised our 7th closer to number 8, which is exactly what we wanted to do. So D major has 2 sharps. C sharp and also F sharp and C sharp, and you also need to memorize that. Okay, I'm going to change color here just to make things a little bit more interesting. F major descending. Now we've already got F major from earlier. We're just now doing this in the treble clef. So we can actually just copy our work, can't we? We can just say, okay, well this is 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And we know that it should be F, going down F, E, D, C, and then we notice, remember we had a B flat, so let's put in that B flat. I could draw that a bit better, couldn't I? And because we want a tone between 5 and 4 and a semitone between 4 and 3, B flat to A, which is what we want, G, and then F. So we've got our semitone here between F and E as well, between 7 and 8. So I don't need to give you anything new to memorize because we've already done F major. Now we've got G major. Now the example has got that ascending already, so we could do it, but let's imagine we were doing it first off. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And we know that we need to put a semitone between 3 and 4. So just check that 1 and 2 are already a tone. They are. G to A is a tone. All good. A to B is a tone, so that's good. B to C is a semitone, which is exactly what it should be, between 3 and 4. And C to D is a tone, which is what it should be, between 4 and 5. D to E is a tone, which is what it should be, between 5 and 6. And E to F, oh dear, that's a semitone, and it's between 6 and 7. It shouldn't be there, so we sharpen up that F to make it F sharp, making it a full tone between E and F sharp. So there's no black note between E and F. And then finally, we have created already for ourselves, by doing so, a semitone between F sharp and G notes 7 and 8. And we can write down G major has 1 sharp, F sharp. Now you might notice that it almost looks like there seems to be a sequence of sharps and flats that we add. F sharp and then F sharp and C sharp. We've just added a C sharp on for D major with the next sharp key. And this is something we'll learn about in the next grade. One last thing I need you to remember. I'll write it at the top. C major has no sharps or flats. Okay, and those are the 4 keys that you need to memorize for grade 1. Okay, but the lesson is not over. So, as you can imagine, if every time we want to sing a piece in G major, every time we have an F, we have to make it sharp and write in an accidental, we'll be writing a lot of sharp signs throughout the piece if there's a lot of F sharps that we need to sing or to play. So, musicians invented a way of saying, whenever you see an F, I want it to be F sharp, and that is called a key signature. So, a key signature tells us to sharpen or flatten every single one of the notes that match that letter. Okay. Okay. It applies to all the letter names regardless of octaves. So unlike an accidental, which only applies to that particular note, a key signature, sharp or flat, applies to every single F. Okay. So learning about what we've just done, we can relatively easily make and understand the key signatures of all the major keys that we need to learn. So here is a staff, and these are the ones you need to memorize. So C major has a blank key signature. Tell you what, actually, I'm going to create 2 of them because we're going to do bass and treble clef. So let's have that one and another one. There we go. Okay, so let me draw my treble clef, and here's my bass clef. So C major has nothing. I tend to use capital letters for major keys. C major. G major has a sharp symbol on that top F line, but remember it applies to Fs even if they're down here. It applies to all the Fs, and it would be here. We don't need to put them in their own bars, but I'm just separating them off so you can see them. This is G. Remember it had that one G sharp. D major, we have the F sharp and the C sharp, and as I remember, it applies. They always apply to every single F and C. And finally, F major with its 1 flat, B flat. There is B flat there, there is B flat here. Now it's very important that you draw them always in this pattern. Even though there is an F sharp here, you do not draw a G major key signature looking like that. It's always on the top line. That's just one of those rules. Yeah. And although there is a B flat up here, we wouldn't draw F major with this key signature. We keep them on the staff in a particular pattern which you will learn. But you need to just memorize these key signatures. Okay, C major, nothing. G major, D major, and F major. Okay, so hopefully you've taken a note of those and maybe made a flashcard. If you have, you'll be able to do exercise 3. Here we go. So we can see that 1 sharp, F sharp, in its treble clef position, G major. That 1 flat, easy to recognize, 1 flat, F major is the only one with flats that we have to learn for this grade. This is a blank one, so it is C major. 2 sharps, that's D major, F sharp and C sharp. You can always learn it by the way that the key that it is, if it's a major key, major keys are always 1 note higher than their last sharp. So if they've got sharps, 1 note higher than the last sharp. So you see the last sharp here is C sharp, so that is D major. C is 1 lower than D. Okay. This blank one here in the bass clef is the bass clef version of C major. 2 sharps and C sharp's the last sharp, that's D major. 1 sharp and the last sharp is F sharp, so that would be G major. And flat, the rules for flats is that the flat is the 4th note. The last flat in a flat key note number 4. B flat, so if B flat's note number 4, A would be note number 3, G would be note number 2, and F would be note number 1, so that is F major. Those are the 2 little rules you can learn. Okay, but it's still not over. Sorry, there are a lot of exercises for this because keys are very important. So looking ahead now to exercise 4. Have a go at it. Pause the video. Something very useful to know is that key signatures always go after the clef and before the time signature. So what they're asking for here is they want clef and key signature to make the scale what it should be. So F major we're told to do. So we need that first note to be an F. Well, that must be treble clef position. So I'll draw my treble clef to make that first note an F. And that's now an F, but F major has B flat, and we know that B flat in treble clef is on the middle line because we copied it earlier. So let's draw that nicely on the middle line, and that is what we should be seeing. Okay. That means that every time we see a B, it becomes a B flat. So there is my B flat here now. C major we know is blank, and we need that to be a C, and that is only a C in bass clef. So let's draw a bass clef and leave the rest blank because C major has no sharps or flats. Just to show you where the semitones are, you can see them there and there in this scale, and between there, there, and here and here in this scale because we've got a descending scale. Yeah, always between 3 and 4 and 7 and 8. Okay, D major. Making that note on the second from the top line, a D is requiring the treble clef. And D major, as we know, has 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. You should just be able to get this from your flashcard. And that's going to create semitones here, and here, exactly where they should be. G major, to make that a G major scale, we need that top space to be a G. That means we are in bass clef. And G major has F sharp, 1 lower than its name. And that makes my semitone here, and another semitone here. So just to show you what notes have been altered because of the key signatures, got the C sharp there and the F sharp here. Obviously the C major scale has no sharps and flats, and for G major we've got an F sharp here. Otherwise we just have the normal notes, so I could write those in as well, couldn't I, just to show you. I'll write them in a different colour so you can see which ones haven't been affected by a key signature. We've got an F, a G, an A, C, D, E, and back to F, and C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C, and D, C sharp, B, A, G, F sharp, E, D, and G, F sharp, E, D, C, B, A, G. And they all sound like major scales. They've got different rhythms. If you want to hear them, they sound like this. So the F major one goes like this: 1, 2, 1, 2. Fa, sol, la, te, do, re, mi, fa. The C major one sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. The D major one sounds like this. 1, 2, 3. Re, di, ti, la, sol, fi, mi, re. And finally, the G major one sounds like this. 1, 2. Sol, fi, mi, re, do, ti, la, sol. They all sound like major scales, so that's good. Moving on now to exercise 5, our penultimate exercise for this slightly longer than normal video. This is a really good exercise, synthesizing a lot of what we've learned already. Writing out some scales with a given rhythm. It says use the correct key signatures, not accidentals, just key signatures. So let's do that. So G major has F sharp. So let's draw that on the top line. 4, 4, time signature goes after key signature. G major descending, so we need to start with a nice high G. That would be on the very top line over the top. G, and then here's my F sharp, there's my E. D, C, B, A. Notice I'm just aligning myself under what they've given me. And there's my G to finish. F major ascending, so bass clef. F major has a B flat. Put the time signature in. Need a nice low F because we're going up. So F, G, A, B flat because of the key signature. C, D, E, and finally our F. So dotted minim. It's great to see those time values coming in that we learned in previous videos. Oh, I should put my final bar lines in, shouldn't I? As well. Okay, C major, no key signature, so just leave a little space, and then we write 2, 4. That's the time signature. We need a C major ascending. We're in bass clef, so C here in the second from bottom space. D, E, F, G, then A, B, and C on a ledger line. There we go. And these scales sound like the following. I'm not going to sing the top one at pitch because it's too high for me. We sing Sol, Fi, Mi, Re, Do, Ti, La, Sol. The next one. 1, 2, 3. Fa, Sol, La, Te, Do, Re, Mi, Fa. And the final one starting on Do. 1, 2. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. If you find it a little bit difficult to follow those rhythms, you might want to go and revise some of the rhythm videos from earlier. Alright, so that's exercise 5. Now, I did say there were a lot of exercises in this one. There is some copying out exercises on page 18 that we're going to have a look at now. That is exercise 6. So we have to name each of the keys of the melodies given and then write it out again using key signatures instead of accidentals, and you will see how much tidier they look. This is really good musical handwriting practice, and I know this feels like being back in early years of school, but it is actually really important that you're able to do this. So we've got some nice real music here from various composers. You can look these up on Spotify and listen to the whole piece. I recommend that you do. Right, so the first one, the example that's shown, we can see they've got an F sharp and a C sharp. Now, we don't have to have any other information in grade 1 in order to try and work out the key, because we know it's got to be a major, and we can work it out by the sharps and the flats. Okay, so they've got D major, they've put the D major key signature in before the time signature, then copied it out, noting you don't need to put the sharps or flats in anymore, because, well, they're in there because of the key signature. Okay, so we've got another passage now. This is from Mozart. We can see there's one flat. That means it's F major. Yeah, that one B flat. So bass clef, put the F major key signature in. It's in 3/4. Now something interesting does happen in that this one doesn't start with a full bar. This is quite normal. It's called an anacrusis. You can start with an incomplete bar if you want to. And we would write our C, and then we would write our F minim, and then our C crotchet, and then our G, and then our C, and then our A, and then we don't need to write the flat in for that B flat because it's in the key signature. So we have saved ourselves a little bit of ink and a little bit of neatness. And then our final one on this screen, there's going to be another screen of these, just 3 more after this, but I will play all of these first, or sing them rather. We've got here a lovely little piece from the Anna Magdalena notebook from Bach. We can see there's just one sharp, F sharp, that means it's G major for us. Treble clef, G major key signature, now the time signature, and we can write it out pretty much the same as it looked above, just taking care to write the note heads neatly where they should be. No F sharps have appeared yet, so we don't need to worry about anything like that, but here in this third bar they do, and the F sharp is carried in the key signature, so we don't need to include it as an accidental like they did in the version. And there we go. And just playing these and singing these through for you, the Beethoven example, the example from the violin concerto goes like this: Fi sol la ti di re la. Very beautiful piece, can't recommend it enough. The Mozart from the opera The Magic Flute, it's Sarastro's aria. I even know the words. It goes like this: Oasis unter Siris schenket. Or if you use the solfege, do fa do sol do la te sol fa mi. And the final example from Bach, you might know this tune, it's often on kids' toys. Re sol la ti do re sol sol mi do re mi fi sol sol sol. There we go. Just a few more to do of these before we can end this, as I say, slightly longer than usual video. Here we are. So we've got a treble clef here, and we've got a B flat in that first one. So we can say, okay, that must be F major, because that's the one with one flat, B flat. Okay, and then we can draw our treble clef, we can draw our B flat sign, we can put the time signature in 2/4, we can write our notes. And all we need to do is just remember that when we see B flat above, we don't need to put it as the flat here because it's already applied from the key signature. This is really good handwriting practice as much as anything. And I failed at the first hurdle. There we go, that's where your B flat is. Notice this has got an incomplete bar at the end because it's going to go on. They didn't want to show what else happens. Okay, and that sounds like this. Fa, 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 la, do, re, te, so, fa, mi, so, do. That so could probably, that G could probably be a little bit clearer that it's on the line. Okay, just two more to do. Tchaikovsky, the Serenade for Strings, the waltz from that's a lovely piece. Highly recommend listening to that. Bass clef. Draw the bass clef on. We've got 1 sharp, so that means it's G major. If it's going to be a major key, it's G major, so that's F sharp. Let's put that F sharp in. 3/4 time signature, starting with a rest, and then B, and then C. D, E, F sharp, no need to write the sharp sign because it's in the key signature. G, and then A, and then a nice little short note with a rest. It's a very nice way of writing that effect. And it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 1. Ti, do, re, mi, fi, sol, la, ti, re. Very good. Okay, and then the final one, some Elgar from one of the Pomp and Circumstance marches. These are great fun to play. 1 sharp we can see there. No other notes have been sharpened, so that must also be G major. Treble clef this time. Getting in the treble clef practice, we need to write that F sharp in for G major. Oh, I'm not doing very well at drawing one today. There we go. What a mess. What a mess. Let's try again. There we go. 2/4, the time signature. Notice they're beaming over the rest here to show the beat groups. This is beat 1. And you might think, why doesn't he just use a dotted rhythm? Isn't that going to be the same? Well, having those rests in there gives a little bit of daylight between the notes, shortening, creating a little gap between them, which is a really nice effect. And he could have probably written a crotchet instead of this 2-tied quavers, but he wants to make, Elgar wants us to be really clear about the division of the bar. I think this is a much better way of writing. I agree with Elgar. It's mostly handwriting practice at this point, isn't it? But that's good for you. I will sing this in a minute for you, but a little bit slower than the orchestral tempo so that I can get the solfege syllables out quick enough. Notice an interesting thing with the tie there, because the notes are going in 2 different directions with their stems. You have to compromise on what direction the tie should go in because it has to be either a below or an above tie. Okay, and that sounds like this. Re, fi, fi, mi, ti, mi, re, ti, mi, re, do, so, do, ti, so. And there you go. That is the end of this chapter. See you in the next one.